Hey everybody, welcome back. It's Business, and this is likely my last Warships video. And I have uninstalled the game. I've requested I sent in my resignation for the super tester position and all that stuff. So, yeah, I think it's about time for me to move on. The footage you'll see, by the way, today is what I had compiled for the Friedrich overview and the Kurfürst overview. So the first 10 minutes will be the Friedrich, and the remaining nearly 17 minutes will be for the Kurfürst. And there's some really awesome action with both of these ships. And I could give you an opinion, but there's just a lot of other crap for me to talk about right now. So I've put my time into this game, and if I look back at it with the with all of the matches combined from CBT until now, which is roughly 6,500, I probably put around somewhere between 14 to 1,600 hours into playing the game itself. Throw in the amount of time that it's taken to record, throw in the, efforts with streaming and super testing and, everything else as far as making videos is concerned. And that's definitely north of 2,000 hours. And that's a lot of time. And I've placed a lot more time in other games, actually. Like Battlefield Bad Company 2, I think was around 2,100 hours, and I know I'm around 2,000 or so hours with Diablo 3. Counter-Strike was definitely in the 5,000 to 6,000 hour range. Total Annihilation, I can guarantee that was in the 3,000 to 4,000 hour range. I mean, I've been playing games for a shitload of time, and throw in the console games that I used to play, like especially SSX, actually SSX and SSX Tricky. I had some high level records with the with SSX Tricky on good old Mercury City Meltdown. God, I love that map. But anyways, I mean, there's just so many different games that I've dumped a ton of time into, and for the most part, a lot of them have the same thing in common. There was a threshold that I've reached with a given game, and I'm just like, I think I'm done with this. And with Warships, a lot of it stems from the bad mechanics that are in place, such as bow forward bullshittery, if you will. I think it's I think it's so stupid. That's a completely unnecessary mechanic that carries over from World of Tanks that doesn't make the slightest bit of goddamn sense. And one of the things that I would really wish that they would do is to try out a community test environment, like Battlefield had for Battlefield 4, or sandbox thing that they have been doing off and on with World of Tanks, where they can do incredibly drastic changes that would never see the light of day on a public test server, and they can mess around with things like removing citadels. I know that sounds crazy, but the spiky damage from citadels is a big part of the reason why the gameplay is as stagnant as it is, because really, if you go broadside, you're dead. And there's so many people that go broadside because, like this guy in the Iowa, he has no idea what he's doing, despite being tier 9. He probably has 3,000 matches under his belt, and half of those are in the Iowa, and he still has no idea how to play at tier 9. But I'm not talking about just changing one thing. Obviously, there's a whole host of changes that would need to be in place for something like that to work. But when you look at a ship like the Kurfürst and how it plays at tier 10, you can go broadside with that, turn out in front of multiple battleships, and you'll see me do it, and it still keeps going. And that's the kind of confidence that a battleship should be able to have when engaging other battleships. And, it's still highly susceptible to fires like crazy. I mean, that thing burns like a Viking funeral. It's just insanely flammable, and the torpedo protection on it is practically non-existent. I mean, that thing takes torpedo damage like you wouldn't believe. But as far as how the game plays is unfortunately being greatly affected now from top to bottom, as far as the same shit that you see at tier 10 with battleships just sitting there doing nothing, and a guy in a cruiser is trying to get somebody to help him out with a battleship that's coming up, and the destroyer is trying to get somebody to help him out with a cruiser that's about to radar him and reveal him in front of a whole enemy team. That's at tier 6. That's at tier 5, tier 4, tier 3 now. Bow forward Nassau's and bow forward Arkansas Betas and Ishizuchis. It's boring as shit. It is so damn boring. There's no movement whatsoever unless you practically suicide, which I'm really good at. If you've ever watched any of the videos or the streams, I'm really good at putting myself in positions that are completely fucking stupid, and I have no right to do that. And I risk matches constantly so I can make myself feel like there's something that actually happened during it, instead of just sitting there doing nothing. And there's a big problem, of course, with the balance as far as the battleships are concerned. They deal with the RNG of the dispersion, and the cruisers deal with the RNG of incoming dispersion from battleships. And that's a weird way to look at it, but it's really true. Cruisers are balanced by everybody else's dispersion when it comes to battleships, which is just really shitty. Carriers have their RNG with the dive bombers, and destroyers don't really have much at all. And I know a lot of you think I'm more of a battleship player, but I actually have my highest win percentages overall in destroyers because I can control more. I can do more. I have more utility. I can provide help for other people with very simple measures, and that's pretty damn fascinating to me how that works. But when you look at things like the new captain skill stuff, and the things that nobody asked for, like the Japanese destroyer line split. I mean, I had made some slight progress with that line, and then I just gave it up entirely because it interested me no longer with how they approached that thing. There's some really bad changes, some changes that needed to happen, of course, and generally I think that they've made the game way too easy. If you look at a game like World of Tanks, which I really would suggest you not doing, because I do think that's a horrible game, but the way they have the grind on that, it's an immense grind. And that does not exist in Warships. I mean, you have so many different ways to get ahead, and especially now that, you can throw all this XP towards getting a 19-point captain. I mean, it's insane. I guess, with a lot of new players, when they were surveyed, I guess they complained too much about the grind, which is amazing because the game really doesn't have any grind. In a few days, you can be at tier 10. And you can probably play better than most people at tier 10 because there's literally no difference between the play of tier 1 and tier 10. People still don't know what they're doing regardless, at least on an average, because I see better tactics at tier 1 and 2 or 3 than I do at tier 10 quite frequently. That's pretty damn disappointing, because if you play that introductory mission, you start to realize just how badly wargaming informs the player of how they should be able to play the game, and inform them on what is what, and what a shell penetration or citadel means. I mean, there's so many different ways that they can go about improving that in order to make it better for the new players and subsequently the high tier players as well as those players progress. And actually, while we're on the subject of class versus class balance, the fascinating part to me is how the place that carriers have in the game, and they do absolutely have a place in the game as far as the balance is concerned, because even Wargaming has put out videos about the rock paper scissors balance of this class defeats this class, which comes after this class, which goes after the other one, and they're a crucial part, love them or hate them, and that's an absolutely fantastic idea. Except when one of the main components of that balance scheme, that is carriers, is not prevalent enough to balance the game. Because without any one of those 4 components, you don't have proper balance. And Wargaming cannot seem to figure out that they need to up the reward system for carriers as far as what do they normally do, and how can they get earnings for doing teamwork. And I mean, this applies to every class, of course, and it is something that they have improved upon, at least as we can see in the detailed reports now, with damage done upon your spotting and that sort of thing, like how much damage you've taken, potential damage. I mean, there's all sorts of things, but when it comes to carrier play, I mean, you have you could have somebody dump out, nearly 200,000 points of damage and, get a few kills on destroyers, battleship, whatever the hell, and they can't turn a profit. And even with premium, they're making the net is 230,000. I mean, that's before anything as far as their repairs, their consumables, and that is absolutely atrocious. I mean, the fact that a tier 6 premium, actually, hell, I mean, I can probably out-earn a Hakuryu in a New Mexico. That's not right, I mean, how the hell are you going to get anybody to play it if you can't even assure them that, well, I mean, not assure them, but, there's going to be such a difficult time to even try to pull your weight as far as your credits are concerned and to make a profit. And now that there's just so many little things like that add up that make me wonder what the hell they're actually thinking, if they even play the game, because at this point I don't think they actually do. And I mean, at the very least, they certainly don't listen to anybody but maybe themselves, or maybe the Russian server. I have no idea. I don't know what it's like over there, but certainly a lot of these suggestions are not coming from anybody on the NA server, and as far as I'm aware, nobody on the EU. And I would say that, Bastion, for instance, who the hell thought that was a good idea? And the game modes are definitely something that this game needs to expand upon, and thankfully, finally, they're coming out with clan wars and all that, clan structure at the very least, and that's a good thing. But a lot of the players don't really give a shit about clans and being in groups and stuff like that. They're just fine being in a division or just playing solo. So you are only including a small portion of the population when you're talking about clans, but I do think that's at least a step in the right direction. It's something the game has needed for quite a while, because organized play with this has been left up to the player base. And OPG, for instance, doing Fight Night and the Omni Cup over in EU and various other things like that, the fact that the player base has been left to do these things for as long as it has is unfortunately quite telling. And it's not something that is something that I could say would be a vote of confidence for the development team. And I have nothing but respect for those guys. I really do. I mean, trust me, the last thing I would want to be doing is to be involved in the video game industry as a game developer at this point in time, because holy shit, you want to talk about frustrating. I can't imagine the pressure that they're under and the crap they got to wade through in order to do a lot of things. But really, the direction this game has been going for a while has been really bad, I think. And it's, well, maybe not really bad, it's just been disappointing, or it hasn't been instilling me with a lot of confidence when it comes to the future of the game. And sweet ass double strike right there to win that match, but with only a few hundred HP too. That's definitely something I'm gonna miss. The result of shooting this when you're shooting with this ship, because it's fucking amazing. Very, very good ship to play, but I think that the gameplay has become so stagnant. The player base just seems completely disinterested in the game as far as playing it, and that's something that's really confusing to me, because why the hell would you bother wasting 20 minutes of your life on something that you have no intention of improving upon? It's it just blows me away that the passivity and the complacency of the average player is as bad as it is. And there's just so many situations that I think about when discussing this that I'm just like, you've got to be kidding me. Why would that player ever do something like that, as far as hanging out on the one line when there's absolutely no reason to do so? It's like, people don't pay attention to what they're doing at all. And You know, it's just going through the motions, and that's extremely disappointing because I'm really competitive, and there's plenty of other very competitive people out there, and I'm gonna do what I can to stay in the match and try to pull my weight, and that's what's fun to me. And you know, when people say, "Oh, I'm playing to have fun," no fucking shit, so am I, and I'm just playing to win. I mean, how hard is that to decipher? You know, that's such a stupid cop out for people who have no intention of being better, who are okay with playing like crap. And I don't agree with that at all, regardless of the game. I've played way too many games at way too high a level to let that be something that I'm comfortable with. But, you know, I do play different games for different reasons, and this is one of those that I ended up being good at, and you know, that's what you guys tell me from time to time, and I guess I have to believe it. I really try to avoid the whole, you know, I'm very humble about stats and very modest about it. It's not something I really concern myself with at all because it's not important. And you know, if we're talking about new players or, you know, intermediary players or even top level players, just enough bullshit with the stats. Nobody cares. It doesn't make you good because I mean, there's plenty of above average players according to win rate that I think are absolute trash, and there are a lot of average to below average players that work really well in a team environment. They just don't have the ability to execute that little bit more to be able to secure a win. And I would rather have somebody like that on my team, who's willing to work together, than the people who are sitting in the back doing absolutely fuck all and only care about their damage, because apparently damage is, you know, the only metric that matters, which is absolutely ridiculous. But yeah, I think there's a lot of issues with the community itself as far as the way it's fractured, the way people talk about, oh, BB players this, BB players that, or, you know, cruiser players, carriers, you know, those goddamn cancer destroyers and all that stuff. It's ridiculous. And the overwhelming majority, like there's got to be only a very small percentage of the player base actually sticks with just a single class. So really, when you make a generalization like that as far as BB players, you're talking about 95% of the player base, because that's what people are going to play. And I really wish that's something that would die in a fire, because I can't stand that. I've always hated it. The ridiculous idea that there's, you know, a group of players that are dedicated to making destroyers like get rebalanced by complaining about them and, you know, doing all this other crap. It just, oh my god, some of the tinfoil hat theories and stuff like that on the forums. I mean, the official forums are horrendous. They're just an awful place to go as it is. And Reddit is no better. It's just a more pretentious version of the official forums. They have exactly the same bullshit and people spouting exactly the same nonsense over and over and over again. And the only difference there is you get downvoted, as opposed to, you know, an upvote sign on the official forums. It's just ridiculous how fractured the community is, and, you know, there are people within the Twitch community and YouTube community that don't make it any better. And I'm just gonna say this now because I still don't understand why anybody watches him. But Flamu, out of all the people that I've seen on Twitch and YouTube and stuff, that motherfucker's got to be the most self-absorbed, self-righteous sack of shit I've ever seen. I mean, he sincerely believes he's the best at everything, and yet here he is on the NA server while talking shit about the NA server and the player base and all that stuff. Which, yeah, I mean, there are specific players to talk trash about, and when you're generalizing and you're saying, you know, the average player, which is something that I've always tried to harp on an average, this, you know, the players are going to do this or that and probably not really help anybody but themselves. But he's talking about everybody. He's lumping every single player on the NA server into the same fucking group that we're all terrible. We're not on NA or the EU server, so we have to be bad. For no real reason whatsoever, because it's not like, I've never played against him, but anything I've seen hasn't left me very impressed at all. He makes mistakes like anybody else. I mean, like I said, he's an above average player. He just has a fair amount of knowledge. I mean, certainly a hell of a lot more knowledge than the average, but I don't think he's a great player at all. And for some reason, he thinks his shit doesn't stink, and a lot of people seem to follow suit with it. I mean, the fact that you want to talk about a lack of respect, knowing that he has a following on a NA, and he made his EU clan called NA LUL. I mean, go fuck yourself, dude. I mean, you guys deserve way better than that shit. And I would really love to suggest plenty of other options for you, but like, I mean, obviously anybody in OPG who can actually back up their shit talking with really good play, I mean, that's obvious enough, but Kami is actually going to be starting up a YouTube channel here pretty soon, so that should be pretty awesome. I'm going to be helping him out with editing the videos, but there's also his stream, which is pretty much the go-to place for the highest level of play in the game. And I don't think that's disputable by anybody, regardless of how many viewers or followers somebody has. I don't think you play nearly as well as he does. And then you have you have all different types of players. I mean, on the EU, Clyde the Monkey's awesome. Like, he's a really good streamer for Warships. A lot of really good games. There's quite a few other players like SursB79, and I think he's in the UK, if I'm not mistaken. I hope I'm right with that. And there's TM Grunty as well, who is, I believe, in Germany. And in the NA, you have all sorts of players like Sir Venom, who's absolutely hilarious. He's starting up a YouTube channel as well. He's got his own brand of humor with that, more introductory, stuff for terminology and map tactics, and there's some good stuff there. Of course, General Dort's hilarious. He's got his own type of salt that is entertaining as hell. Just the way he rages is absolutely hilarious to me, but the salt level is always high with him, so it's pretty enjoyable. Just so you don't have to rage, you just go to General Dort's channel and he'll rage all night for you. And by the way, finally figured out that with AP, you certainly can detonate a destroyer. Yay! Finally, that's the first time I've ever done that with AP. So, but there's XGen Hazmat, who will pretty much get himself killed by interacting with his chat too much, and that guy is like the Bob Ross of Warships, very, very relaxed and chill. And the play isn't like high level, but it's still, he's a lot of fun to watch, and it goes to show you that you don't have to be good at the game in order to have fun with it. You can still enjoy a lot of different aspects of it. And as far as I'm concerned, for me, I have reached a point of no return with this game in that respect. I'm no longer interested in putting any more time into it as far as playing it is concerned, but I love hanging out in streams and watching and chatting and interacting with you guys still. So of course, if you see me around, by all means, feel free to say hello, and I'll be happy to try to help you out with any questions you have, or if you want some advice with editing and that sort, by all means, I'll be game for that. Like I said, I'm pretty much going to be a consultant with this game now, but yeah. So as far as some of the other aspects of the future with YouTube and Twitch, like I said, I mean, this was only a hobby for me, not something I ever intended to be more, because first things first, Warships is not the type of game that's going to get you there. If you're looking forward to blowing it up big with YouTube and Twitch, it's not the game for it. It's too limited. It's too slow. People don't like slow games anymore. I mean, the success that this game has had has been actually pretty goddamn amazing as far as I'm concerned. And I just think that if you are interested in getting into YouTube or Twitch, don't do it as your one means of income. Don't make this your last resort. You know, please have a job and come back to, streaming on your free time and all that stuff and enjoy it the way it should be enjoyed. Don't rely on it to get you out of a tight spot or something like that. That's a whole different type of can of worms that I don't think anybody wants to experience. And this was actually my first match with the Curvers, by the way. I was still trying to get used to the shell travel time, but some pretty damn awesome matches in this game. I really loved playing it, and I really wish I could play it some more, but it's just so goddamn boring to play this game to me now. But anyways, I think that there is not too much of a future for the game as far as, I think a year and a half from now, it's not going to be dead, because, I mean, hell, look at what happened with World of Warplanes. Everybody shits all over that game all the time, and that's still kicking. I do think this has a very, very dedicated player base, and I applaud the people that have stuck with it for as long as they have. And I think that there is potential for this game to improve, but there's a lot of things that need to be overhauled, and I don't have a lot of confidence that they're going to be able to do it. And I think my time is up with the game, and that's that. So, well, yeah, where to go from here? So I just wanted to say thank you all very, very much for your support over the almost 2 years I've been covering this game. Went from 54 subscribers to what we have now, and that's amazing. And the streaming has been awesome, and I look forward to still streaming other games and whatnot with you guys. And I hope to see you around, of course. But thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you. You guys have humbled the hell out of me, and I really, really sincerely appreciate it, and hope to see you back here soon. Take care.